Sister Bay is the year-round Northern Door community. When people ask me what that means, I tell them we have dentist offices, attorneys, plumbers, electricians, in addition to a grocery store that's open year-round, as well as the restaurants and hotels and art galleries and shops that cater to the tourists.
We're in the Sister Bay Park right now, and I spent an awful lot of time here in the 60s and early 70s. The village employed a park superintendent at the time. We took swim lessons here from that particular person. It was our park. The building that is now the post office was the fire department at that time. There wasn't any electronic paging. If someone had a fire, they called a particular number that rang in about 24 different homes. Just up the road was Joe Henrikson's Texaco garage. A lot of us had our first job there. Behind me there was Christ's Red Owl. There was another grocery store just up the street, Happy Herman's with Keita Steebs, and we'd always go there for candy because Keita would always give us a few extra pieces of candy for that nickel or dime that we had. There was also a furniture store here, and Bunda's had a dock. So as kids, you would graduate from this area of the park to this area of the park and then this area of the park. And as you became a teen, you finally graduated to be able to go to Bunda's dock. And you wanted to get there because that's where all the good-looking girls were in their swimsuits and the older girls. I remember sitting at Al Johnson's as a fairly young man, and they were talking about, could you believe it, waterfront had hit $100 a foot. I don't think you can find anything for $1,000 a foot now. I mean, yeah, that boom period took place rather quickly. But there were an awful lot of decisions that were made at the coffee table at Al Johnson's. That's where the discussions took place. It was a different time. Sister Bay was just a great, great place to grow up in. Every summer in the 60s, they'd bring in lumber to the lumber company. They'd stack the logs, probably 30 feet high, and we'd climb those logs and we'd dive into the water. As we graduated to the fall, we'd all congregate after the beach pretty much closed up at the school. On the evenings, we'd play ball, and then Bill Bastian, who owned the Village View Motel, would come out and whistle. And he had this very loud whistle that he'd whistle with his fingers. And the first whistle meant everybody get ready, pick up your gear, and that type of thing. And when he whistled that second time, all of the village kids, and it was the Manns and the Sunstroms and the Jacobsons and the Burresses and the Frickses, and you just see those kids head over the bluff. When Bill said it was time to go home, it wasn't just time for his three boys to go home, it was time for everybody to go home, and everybody did. We moved to what is now the domicile when I was about 4 years old. Behind us, that whole area that is now scanned and the scanned development was orchards. It was cherry orchards and plum orchards, and orchards were also on top of the hill where the country walk shops are now. And around the end of July, the migrant workers would come in. And so everyone that had fruit to pick brought in migrant workers. And some of the camps, the camp behind us, for example, was Mexican Americans. They came up from Texas. And we grew up with these young people and the families. Great people. We got to know the children. Very hardworking people. It's an area and a period in Door County that isn't talked about much, but it was just a very interesting time. This was our life. This was where we lived and where we grew up. And now I think there's so much transportation with parents and their children to, all of Northern Door County that you've lost some of that community. The tourists, we didn't really think of this as a tourist area. I'm certain that it was. There was the National Geographic article in the 60s, A Kingdom So Delicious, and fruit started to leave us as an economic driver. And, we started to concentrate on bringing tourists into our peninsula or onto our peninsula, and it's just built from there.
Sister Bay has to find a way to continue to be a vibrant community, and I think the best way for us to do that is to target families with children, young active families with children, because they will be the next business owners or telecommuters, because the Sister Bay is working to improve its infrastructure and its technology, and they will keep the village alive because somebody has to cook at Al Johnson's and somebody has to make beds up at the Sister Bay Yacht Club. Otherwise, why are people going to continue to come if there's nobody here to make their experience fun and energetic and a good time?